What's up, Titans fans? Welcome to another episode of Titans Global Podcast. I'm your host, Maximus Titan Fan, and with me, as always, is my good buddy Link. What's up, dude?
What's going on, guys? Good to be here. Finally starting to get my voice back a little bit. I might crack a couple times, but went to a football game Saturday and then got it back a little bit on Sunday because not much to cheer about in the Titans game. But we're going to get into that. What we need you guys to do is like, subscribe, and comment as always. If you're already subscribed, give us a share. We want to reach as many people as we can. And hop in the comment section. Let us know what you think about what we saw on Sunday.
Absolutely. And today, as always, we are sponsored by Red Zone Builders, Expert Excavators. But anyway, to talk about some football, we are. What's up, dude? We are at a very interesting crossroads as a franchise, and we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. We're going to talk about Will Levis. We're going to talk about Callahan. We're going to talk about, is there anything good going on? Defense, trade proposals, Mason's perform. We're going to go over it all, man. So let's dive right into it and just get into it. Levis, the whole Levis debacle, man. The fact that he was hurt or he played last week, he's hurt this week. I can get over that. But he doesn't even dress. And the only logical explanation I can come up for that is the fact that maybe you wanted that extra roster spot for a skill player, but I don't understand what other skill player you're bringing on, especially, well, never mind. We'll leave that for later in the show. But what do you think about them making Will Levis completely inactive for the game?
Look, I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm going to touch on a little bit of everything just talking about it. But so here's my frustrations. Supposedly it's grade 2 AC sprain. Reports basically show that that's a 4 to 5 week injury, but yet the Titans have him day or week to week. My biggest problem with it is, Rudolph was asked when did you know you were going to be the starter, and he said Friday night. That is a problem. That is a problem. When you look at the pre-snap penalties, when you look at the fumble from the snap, it's okay. He knew Friday, which means my assumption would be if he knew Friday, he was not practicing with the first team during the week, because Levis was a full participant on Thursday with a 4 to 5 week injury, which is just a little suspect in itself. But when you look at that, I mean, the offensive line, they're not used to his cadence. He's not used to taking snaps from them. You basically just throw a guy into a situation, and I'm not defending his play. I thought he made some good plays. I thought he made some poor plays. However, when you're only given a 2 days heads up that you're going to be the starter of this offense, there's a lot of things that you have to go through to get ready. That's a problem. So I don't know what the deal is with the injury in Levis and why he was a full participant at practice and then all of a sudden he's not dressing. That's weird. Mason Rudolph not knowing till Friday. That's weird. It just seems like a complete mess in that organization and in that locker room right now. And I don't know. Again, I'm sitting here and I don't know where you start to fix it.
Yeah, man. And another thing, a small point, but I thought it was kind of an odd. I don't know that Derrick Henry's the fix or anything. Anyway, I saw on Wednesday, and I thought it was a little odd when it came out that a lot of players said they had a bad practice Wednesday.
Yep.
And I didn't really understand what it meant, but now I do, because Levis was probably throwing the ball all over the place like he was in the Indianapolis game. And to be honest, if we had a little bit better play at the quarterback position, do we not all agree that game would have been won? Or at least to say that if he put in Mason.
Oh, you're talking about the Colts game.
Instead of playing,
yes.
Instead of playing a hurt Levis.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was underthrowing and overthrowing everything.
Right.
He couldn't seem to get the arm rhythm down, and it's probably because he was hurt, and he was feeling that pain, and he's trying to push through it. But whatever. Anyway, we're going to talk about some bad Callahan, and then I'm going to bring up points as to why we should cut him a little bit of slack. But anyway, I expected not to play. Did not expect him to be inactive. Because, I mean, what happens if, freakish accident, like in Miami's case, Mason Kinsey immediately gets hurt in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing Trevor Siemian, a guy that just got here a week ago. And then what if he gets hurt? This has happened before. That's the only reason I bring it up.
Well, and you saw just before you go into your next point, you saw to build on that, you didn't start a third running back. So you make Levis inactive, you make Leroy Watson, who's arguably been your best right tackle, inactive, and
I'll
then
talk
and
more
then you
about
don't
that. Yep.
even put in a third running back and Tony Pollard, which probably should have a concussion. I mean, that hit was that was
Brutal.
yeah, I mean, absolutely, but I mean, it's textbook concussion. Like he probably did have a concussion, but you don't have a third running back, and you have Julius Chestnut, who, I mean, credit to him, he came in and did what he was supposed to do when he was in there, but you don't. He's not a third down running back every single drive. I mean, that's just that you can't win football games with that. So even with the inactives they put on, the actives they made were questionable. It's just again, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, a lot of questionable moves made by the staff this week. Um, to move on though, or at least to move on to my next point about how horrible the game was. Mason, a lot of people online are saying, well, Mason didn't play any better than Levis. And that's not really true. He
It's
did
not
play
true
a
at
little
all.
bit better than Levis. He didn't make really stupid mistakes until the game was pretty much in trash time, and it was just up to him to do something. And he had absolutely no coverage, blocking, no blocking whatsoever. He was pressured on more than half of, I think it was like 65% of his snaps. He was snaps that he had to take. He was pressured on. That's insane. Even the screen pass, which we saw, he got knocked on a screen pass, y'all. You do have to chip them. You can't just let them run right by you. But I don't know. Procedural stuff that was just very frustrating for me to see, especially with touted as one of the best offensive line guys. Our offensive line is not playing their best football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it. They come out and they start pretty strong. It's 10-0 at one point. It's 10-7. I mean, and you saw really strong quarterback play early. You saw him connecting with the tight
Mm-hmm.
ends, which is something we've been screaming for all year. Where's a Conquo? Where's your tight end play? So Wiley, so he was able to do that early, and it looked pretty promising. Had a good couple of drives. Yes, he missed some throws, but then in the second half, just completely stalling out and not having an answer. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that when the Titans were up 10-7 that they're going to be able to stop there and this be a 13-10 type game. That's not what was going to happen. So for them to make no adjustments, and the Bills to make those adjustments, it was tough for me. And then you still see Rudolph in the second half. You still see him do those stupid things. I mean, he threw a pass going to the ground, the same exact thing we saw from Levis. The next play, he tries to make a throw. It's an interception, kind of an ugly interception. So yeah, but at the same time, I don't think we knew Rudolph was going to be the guy. But you saw some things early that you haven't seen from Levis this year. So that's kind of my thoughts on quarterback play. Not great, not terrible, just kind of mediocre. And at the end of the day, you weren't able to make adjustments.
I'll agree with that. But as you did allude to earlier, he didn't have it. He didn't find out he was a starter until 2 days before, and the
Exactly.
practices are all done. You don't
Exactly.
even get to practice as a starter. So I think this week, I don't expect Levis to play. Please God, don't let him take all the practices again. If you're gonna start Rudolph, he should get some time to practice under center. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
And bring Watson back for God's sake. What is wrong with you guys, man? MPF had eight, yeah, 8 pressures, man. Had 8 pressures. My God. Like I said, 65% of the time Mason got the ball, it was somebody in his face. That's crazy.
Yep. Yep. And what was more telling to me is, Callahan was asked, has there been any thought with Duncan now out after playing 4 snaps and him being injured, he's looking at some time being out. And he was asked, have you ever thought about moving Radens to that tackle position? And he's like, well, that'd be a disservice to Radens. Okay, well, he's arguably been your best offensive lineman to this point in the season. And it's a disservice to your quarterback when they're taking as much pressure and as many hits as they are. So for him to just completely dismiss things like that, and again, I'm not going to make this whole thing about Callahan and why I think he's just been kind of intolerant for me to this point. I'm not going to do that. But just the comments and the injuries and the deciding who to set and who to start, it's one thing after another that I just set back and it just compounds. And I think, why is he making these decisions? That's the biggest issue for me. So I don't know. Yeah, but like you said, offensive line play, it's got to be better. I do expect Leroy Watson to be back this week just because of the Duncan injury, and curious to see how it would go with a full week of preparation from Rudolph.
Yeah, and that brings me to a good point, and I think a conversation that we need to have on air. We had it a little bit before the game, before the show. All over Facebook, Twitter, there are people calling for Callahan's job, saying that Callahan should be fired, or Callahan's just not a good coach, or Callahan's calling stupid ass plays, which I kind of agree with the last one for the most part. But quick recap of something that I saw. It was either today or yesterday. I can't remember, but it was on the Locked On Titans podcast. Shout out to Tyler Rowland, because he is the one that brought it to my attention. But Zach Taylor, year one in the Bengals, 2-14. Year two, they went 5-11. Year three, they went to the Super Bowl. My point is they started off terrible, 2-14. Would y'all be asking for his job? And Dan Campbell, Lions, started off 3-13. Next season, 9-8. Next season, 12-5. This season so far, 5-1. Possibly the best team in the NFC. But do you call for Dan Campbell's job because he went for 3-13 in his first season? So that's my point, is that first of all, he is a first-year head coach above all else. It's his first time trying this out. And we've seen coaches in the past, or I'm trying to show you a pattern of coaches in the past that have had bad first years and been able to pull it out once their plan is fully seen.
Yeah, and here's kind of my pushback to that, and this is why I love the show, because we don't always agree.
That's right.
And this is why I give a little pushback to that. It was the same way that I hated comparing the Will Levis to Peyton Manning talk. Well, Peyton Manning threw a lot of interceptions his first year because yes, Peyton Manning did throw a lot of interceptions and he turned out to be Peyton Manning. But you also have one Peyton Manning and about 200 other guys who threw a lot of interceptions in their first year and didn't become Peyton Manning. It's the same thing with the coaching for me. I mean, if you look back at Dan Campbell, yes, they made it work, but there's also been a lot of first-time head coaches in this league who didn't make it work and didn't go on to be one of the best teams in the NFC and the NFL. So I hate the kind of comparison game. I do get where you're coming from. No, I don't think all is lost with Callahan, and I'm not sitting here calling for his job tomorrow. I just think that when I look at this Titans schedule and I see maybe 3 wins at the end of the season, I don't think anyone's job is safe. That includes Callahan. So no, I'm not saying fire him now, but if I don't see something, I mean, when you come out as an offense and you're winning a game, so you come out, it's 10-0. From that point on, they net 0 yards on first down. That is absolutely ridiculous from a coaching staff who could not make an adjustment because Josh Allen came alive and the Titans couldn't answer. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for me for any head coach in the NFL. So I just, again, not calling for his job now. I just don't think he's as safe as what most people believe. And I don't think the comparisons to successful head coaches in the NFL can be made at this point in his career. It's not there for me right now.
Well, I mean, I guess I understand that. But my main thing was he's a first year head coach and play caller. This is my problem. Play callers and head coaches don't go well together. Or whether it's offense or defense, I don't care which way it is. It doesn't work unless you're extremely good head coach and you've got a really good reign on, you know, all your staff and everybody. You're really cemented in, like, oh, I don't know, Bill Belichick. It's the only person that I know of that's successfully done it in the NFL, other than, help me out, head coach Chiefs, Andy Reid.
Yep.
Those are the only two that I know of in the NFL that's been able to do that successfully. So extremely rare for somebody to be able to do that. And to do it in your first ever head coaching gig, I think is a little bit, it's grandiose to think that you can do that. Because it's just, I just don't. So he needs to relinquish that if he wants to remain the head coach. I feel like the first step is saying, okay, maybe I need to stop calling plays, back up from that, and just be the guy that makes the hard calls at the end and show these guys that this is my plan and this is my way. Because that's what a head coach is supposed to be. He's not a, you know, I don't know. I think he's a little soft. And maybe that's just because I'm used to the Vrabel head coaching staff. But I will say this. I don't want to, at the end of the year, think about finding a new head coach just because he only has 2 or 3 or 4 wins at the end of the season, because I watched the Texans for many years go through that, and the Browns and a bunch of other teams. Plus, we have to remember we were playing the Buffalo Bills. It's not like we were playing Indianapolis, you know? Okay, if we'd have done that against Indianapolis, okay, I get it. And I get it because we were having success in the first half. They made adjustments. We weren't able to. I get that. That is a very valid point. However, it's also a valid point that they're probably going to be in the AFC Championship this year. Allen's playing on another level this year because he hasn't thrown an interception. He's not doing the stupid plays that he usually does. By the way, I thought it was hilarious that people were comparing Levis to Josh Allen earlier in the offseason. But anyway, I'll get off my high horse about that, other than the fact that, to remember, he's still 39. The dude's he's younger than I am, and he's the head coach of an NFL football. But that's what I'm saying. Brian Callahan, if you're watching this, which I doubt you are, but if you are, take a step back from play calling, be the head coach that you need to be, and then, and only then, when you've got full control of your team, can you maybe think about going back into play calling.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got kind of 2 windows to look at that through. So for me, it's one, even the stuff that you expect him to do as a head coach, not as just a play caller, it's not good. The challenges, the decision making, even like we just talked about, the starting people, the setting people. I mean, just it's not good decisions being made, even from a head coaching point of view, not even a play calling point of view. Now, a lot of that's to be said is that the other window is he looks overwhelmed. He looks absolutely overwhelmed during these games, and that's probably due to the fact that he is trying to call plays and do the head coaching thing at the same time. So I agree, he has to take a step back. For me, it's okay, is he unwilling to do that? Or does management need to kind of put something in and say, hey, this is what we're going to do from this point on. We're going to have this guy call plays. We're going to have you be the head coach, and then see how that goes. Because this season is about figuring out what you have in Levis, but it also is figuring out what you have in Callahan and what we expect the culture of this team to look like in 2 to 3 years down the road. And that's why that first window that I'm talking about, the culture right now does not look good. It just doesn't look good for me. You have absolutely no leadership on offense. I mean, Nick Vannett, who I don't know why Nick Vannett's at the podium after a game, but Nick Vannett, who's at the podium, basically says, we don't have vocal guys on this team. Everybody kind of leads their own way. And then Koharski asked him, it should be pretty easy to point to the leader, the vocal leader. And he's like, yeah, well, guys just kind of lead different ways. That's a problem. There
That is
should
a very
be
big
a
problem.
there should be a leadership on this offense because players are starting to check out. And that's just me looking at it from the outside looking in. It feels like the culture of this team is not where it should be. That's where I have issues. That's where I have issues. So no, I don't want to be at the end of this season going on another head coaching search, but I'm also not willing to accept mediocrity for the sake of not being in a position where you're looking for a coach. So something's got to change by the end of this season, just for the simple fact that you have guys on this team that you want to keep around for years to come. You don't want guys looking to get out of a sinking ship.
Yeah, and part of that I think is because our part of that I think the culture part of it is because we tried to buy a team instead of grow a team. Part of it. Which is why, I think when we are truly a contender again, in God, I hate to say it, in a couple years, um the only people that's going to be relevant on this team are the rookie class right now. The two last rookie classes are really going to be the only players, if there are any players from those, you know what I mean, those that are even on the team or are relevant at that point. Um, one of my biggest disappointments of this game made me realize that I can't take up for Calvin Ridley anymore. The Jaguars fans were absolutely 100% correct. I eat my crow. Calvin Ridley, in my eyes, is a whiny prima donna who can't seem to catch the ball even when it hits him right in the hands. He had 9 targets. He only caught 3 for 49 yards. And he looked flustered the whole game. So I don't know. I hate to admit that, but on the play calling side of it, yeah, man, the fourth down. Oh my God, the fourth down call on the run play. Don't know what Callahan was thinking on that, and the Music City muff right before the freaking half. I don't know what that was either, man. I was literally screaming at the top of my lungs, just down the ball. My wife was tripping because I was screaming so loud at the TV. It was a disaster.
And I want
But
to I want to
yeah,
make a point about that because again, I'm not here telling Callahan to get out of town, but I will say it seems like guys on this offense are just doing absolutely anything to find a spark, even in the Will Levis gaffes, the fumbles, the interceptions throws with Mason Rudolph now going out and doing the same things that Will Levis did, and then an offense before the half trying to throw the ball across the field. I mean, it's halftime. It's not the end of the game. They're trying to throw the ball across. They're just looking for any way to make
we
something
were in the
happen.
lead.
And again, I think that might go back to the coaching staff. I mean, I
Oh,
don't
it
know what's being
absolutely
said
does.
to these guys, but he's basically telling them just do whatever you have to do to get a spark. And I mean, I think he coached some of the bad things into Will Levis. Again, he's regressed. I think those same things spilled over to Mason Rudolph. I think those same things spilled over at the end of the half. Um, it's it's
Mm.
desperation at this point. It's pure desperation at this point. And yes, it is hard to defend Calvin Ridley with the drops we saw, but the dude hasn't been in a rhythm all season long due to quarterback play. DeAndre Hopkins visibly frustrated on the sidelines at the end of the game, visibly frustrated in the locker room, saying how frustrating it is. Guys at the podium saying that it sucks the life out of the sidelines when these things happen. I mean, it's complete desperation for me at this point, and you've got to find a way to fix that before the end of the season, or again, I don't think anybody on this team or this organization is safe.
I'll be honest with you, man. A lot of people, and you might be too young to remember these days, but I remember the 2 and don't know, it was like 2-14 or 2-13. I don't remember what it was back then, but it doesn't matter. My point is, I remember the bad Jeff Fisher days, right before he got fired and everything, or well, right before we got Vince Young, which was right before he got fired. But point is, I remember the bad. We've had it lucky because it's just been a mediocre ride. You know, that was my big problem with Vrabel. And when I stepped back and looked at it from a non-biased point of view, when I stopped looking at him as my coach and started looking at him as a coach, and he was handed a 9-7 team that went to the playoffs. So I don't really tout him for getting us to what was our best record, like 12-4, I think, or maybe it was 11. Anyway, point is, he didn't really move the needle that much. What's up, Matt? So that I don't know. I'm not. All I'm saying is I'm not killing Callahan just because it's his first year, and my God, man. But I will agree there are things that bother me about him, like the leadership thing. That really bothers me. And I think that's because maybe he's a little soft. Like I said, maybe, because nobody questioned who was in control of the locker room when Mike Vrabel was in town.
Exactly.
Everybody knew Mike Vrabel was the man.
Exactly.
So, but try and move on from that. Let's try and talk about something positive for a few minutes. You alluded to it earlier in the show. The only person safe with his job, according to you, is Denard Wilson.
Yep.
And that's because we still, unbelievably, I had to look it up because, a guy told me, and I really trust everything this dude says, basically because he's accredited and he's an actual journalist instead of like me, a fanalist. But number one in the NFL defense.
Mm-hmm.
And still, even after that embarrassing couple burned loss, he only burned us like 3 times, by the way. Which sounds so great, don't it? Oh, he only burned us 3 times. I mean, come on, man. Amari Cooper only caught how many balls and he ran the incorrect routes?
Yeah, I mean when you're again, the defense as a whole early played good. They were kind of exhausted, but when you don't know what route you're supposed to run and the guy next to you just points straight and you as a defense see that and then allow him to catch a pass just running a go route when you know what he's going to run, that's a problem. And yeah, I mean a lot of that has to do with injury, but as a whole, again, defense not bad. Denard Wilson, I've got nothing but praise for him to this point. He keeps finding a way to get that defense ready to play these games when it's so hard to find a reason to get up and play these games. I mean, they fight until they're just completely exhausted. And unlike the offense, you do have clear leaders on that defense. The linebacker play has been excellent. The defensive line could get better. They could find more ways to get pressure, but we're seeing some of these guys like Arden Key to start to show up in these games. They're finding ways to create sparks on defense, and the offense is just having trouble building on that, which leads to more frustration on the defense. That's what I'm seeing when I look at it.
I'll be honest with you, man. And I hate to say this because Big Jeff is one of my favorite Titans. Everybody knows that. He's probably my favorite as of right now, especially the few that we have that are old school. But he's disappeared this year, man. I'm so disheartened with the whole defensive line. Honestly, the best part of our defense has been the back end.
Mm-hmm.
But again, huge disappointment on the back end. Cheeto and Sneed. I mean, I don't know what's up with Sneed, dude. He didn't miss hardly any games with Kansas City.
He also didn't play for many 1-5 teams at Kansas City. So
I was going to say, well, this is the look for me, though, is he had his worst game, arguably one of his worst games as a professional against Indianapolis. And then he's unable to play because of injury this week. Now, I'm not saying his injuries, obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, to me, it looks like It looks bad.
What it looks like. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and our investment is kind of moot at that
Yeah.
point, and him and Cheeto.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And again, yes, he didn't play a great game against the Colts, but the defense as a whole found a way to step up and still put together a pretty good game. I mean, he's like I talked about. I think it was that post game. He's the type of guy where he's going to get burned, but he also makes some big plays because of the way that he plays that position. We just haven't seen as many of those big plays this year. But I'm also looking at this and saying, when I see DeAndre Hopkins on the sidelines with his helmet on, strapping up, ready to go, standing next to Callahan, rolling his eyes, shaking his head. Callahan said it was a trainer issue, but I'm also starting to wonder how many of these guys are being either held out or are looking to preserve what they have left in the tank to maybe go make a run, if that makes sense. Are they being shopped? And I think that's what it comes down to. I definitely think DeAndre Hopkins is being shopped. There's not a doubt in my mind he's being shopped. Wouldn't shock me at all if you try to get some of your investment back on guys like L'Jarius Sneed. If Chidobe Awuzie was healthy, I don't know that he's not being shopped. And then look, again, when I say nobody on this organization is safe, I'm talking about players too. Guys like Jeffrey Simmons, who you're not getting the production you expected out of him. I don't doubt that he might get shopped at some point. I mean, you're at a point as an organization where you tried to do a retooling and now you're looking at having to do a full rebuild. That means nobody on this roster is safe.
All right, man. Let's pause right there. We'll come back in about 40 seconds. We got to throw our sponsor out there, but I do want to talk about this, and we're going to get in depth about our trade proposals and who we think might be trade candidates. Stick with us. What's up, Titans fans? Maximus Titan fan here. Are you in need of professional excavation services? Look no further. Red Zone Builders has the expertise, experience, and equipment to handle all or any excavation project, big or small. Whether you need land clearing, site preparation, trenching, foundation excavation, or any other excavation services, they have you covered. Their team of skilled professionals will work diligently to ensure your project is completed safely, efficiently, and to your satisfaction. Trust the experts at Red Zone Builders to get the job done right. Boom. And we're back.
Hey, speaking of commercials, and I'm not joking about this. Like, this is a legitimate question. Did you see the Mayo commercials on Sunday? Because if I saw them, there wasn't near as many. Am I wrong? Was it the same amount?
Twice.
Twice.
I saw it twice. You almost saw it every commercial break.
Oh, exactly.
In previous games.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
I just thought, and I'm not taking shots at Levis or Hellman's, I promise. But
yeah,
I just thought I was like a little bit. But I just thought, I'm like, man, looking back, I don't remember getting that mad at commercials. So I don't know if I was just a little bit checked out of that game or if there wasn't as many. But interesting fact. I'm curious to know the over-under on Mayo commercials for next week's game.
Oh my God. We need to turn that into a thing. That needs to be a thing. Bet over under Mayo commercials. How many are we going to get this week? All right. So talking about trade prospects, obviously the biggest one is DeAndre Hopkins, and it's clear that he's being shopped. Yeah. I mean, did you see him on the sideline? He's just like looking like, I mean, he even had like a sly grin on his face because he knows.
And you know what? Maybe even more so than Derrick Henry. I know he hasn't been here as long, but maybe even more so than Derrick Henry. I legitimately hope he gets on a championship team. He deserves that. I mean, he shows up every week, and he wants to go back in that game. It's a 1-5 team, and he's visibly frustrated that he's not there in a game that's pretty much already been decided. I really hope he deserves a run.
Respect.
I hope he finds a good team. Absolute respect to a walking play legend in DeAndre Hopkins.
Absolutely agree. 100%. Couldn't be happy. I mean, I'll be honest with you, dude. It breaks my heart to talk about trading DeAndre Hopkins simply because that was my big thing. I mean, I was so set on that. And I was right. So I had to rub it in for at least, I don't know, a month or two, maybe even longer than that. I'm still rubbing it in, as a matter of fact. So, but, it's time. He, like you said, he deserves it. Plus, he's 32. but he's still playing at a good level. There are plenty of teams out there that need wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk just went down. Kansas City needs receivers. I mean, there are people out there that need this guy. Plus, maybe we get like a fourth round draft pick, third round
Okay,
draft.
so that was my next discussion. So last week I said that you're not getting over a fifth for DeAndre Hopkins, and I take a fifth. I take a fifth. I think you at least get some decent return back. I take a fifth for DeAndre Hopkins, but the landscape has kind of changed a little bit. Like you said, Ayuk is out for the season. Debo Samuel is, T's and P's to him. He's hospitalized with pneumonia. You've got Ayuk, torn ACL. He's now out for the season. So now you have some contenders that are going to start getting a little more desperate. They're going to start getting a little more desperate. So those fives start turning into fours real quick when you realize, okay, this is the injuries we're looking at. So am I still taking a five? Yes. Do I think that chances are a little bit higher of a fourth now? Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see. God, I hate doing mock draft Mondays and trade talk Mondays, but we're there. We're there.
That is it.
Like you said, we're
yeah,
there.
that is it. And to be honest, again, I try to have realistic expectations, but I can't help myself. I'm such an optimist. And plus, man, like you said, I feel like they were actually pumping us up because of all these free agent signings we were having and all this, all this hype around Levis and the new coach. And it's just disappointing to be where we are right now, but it's okay. It's all right. Let's talk about some other trade prospects. People want to talk about maybe trading Big Jeff. Now, personally, I don't see this happening because Big Jeff just got paid, and he's got a lot of guaranteed money that we would that he would get. And first of all, I don't know that we'd be willing to trade him because, good Lord, that'd be a lot of money. And secondly, I don't know that there's a lot of teams out there willing to pay that price to have him. Same thing with L'Jarius Sneed. Even if he was healthy at this point, we couldn't trade him off because he just got paid. Cheeto's interesting, though, because if he was healthy, I do think we could trade him off because he didn't get a huge payday. But what's your thoughts, man? What are the ones that pop up in your head immediately?
I agree to an extent on Jeffrey Simmons. You would owe him a lot of money. I do think there would be teams willing to pay that. That's probably something I wouldn't expect that before the trade deadline. I would not be shocked to see that happen in the offseason, just for the simple fact that I do think he's a valuable piece to any defense. No, he's not been producing with the Titans, but there are a lot of factors that go into that. It would be a big payday, but you're also in the position of you have to get something back for that. And I've seen some stuff even with DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't hate it, but I don't love it either, of the Titans having to cover part of that salary to be able to move him and shop him around. But he's a guy just like Jeffrey Simmons, you might lose anyway, because what you don't want to do is end up in one of these holdout situations that we're seeing around the league. And I mean, I love Jeffrey Simmons as a person, but I would also get his perspective of, you need to pay me or move me. I can see that happening. I don't know. That's what I would want to try to avoid. And if something comes across the table of maybe like a third round pick or a high second round pick, I'm not above possibly moving Jeffrey Simmons, as much as I hate to say that. But I mean, I wasn't for moving Derrick Henry, but it's just it's part of the business. It's part of the business. And sometimes to get better, I mean, we say 2 to 3 years. God forbid we're looking at 4 to 5, but it's something you have to look at just from a perspective of, no, he's not an old player, but he is aging. He's due for a lot of money. We haven't seen him produce. If something comes across my table, I'm at least entertaining the offer. That's where I'm at on Jeffrey Simmons. Again, we talked about L'Jarius Sneed. I think that's a good possibility at this point. I do think there's something to the injury, but I also think that he may be being held out to be shopped. As far as the young talent, I don't see anybody getting moved there. Those would be the three big names for me. By the trade deadline, I'm looking at Sneed and Hopkins in the offseason, which I don't want to even think about yet. Again, not I wouldn't be surprised to hear them entertaining offers on Simmons.
Yeah, I hear people also talk about Quandre Diggs. And yeah, we only got him on a 1-year deal, but and he is playing good. But to be honest, man, for as little as we paid for him, I wouldn't mind just keeping him around. Hell, I wouldn't mind signing him for another season if he keeps playing like he is. If I'm being honest, just my 2 cents on the.
Yeah, I again, that's another one where I don't feel like there would be many offers for him going into a trade deadline,
Exactly.
and then by the end of the season, you're looking at it from a perspective of, okay, if we can sign him, great, but we're not going to be able to move him because he's on a 1-year deal anyway. So I definitely don't see trade talk on Quandre Diggs. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to definitely a re-signing of him if that's possible. And again, but he's one of the guys we're talking about why you still have to make this season competitive, because you can offer him all you want. If he doesn't want to be on another team that's say 3-14, then that's another problem. So you have to find a way to stay competitive, because these guys that we're talking about that we may possibly want to re-sign, we got to make sure they want to be here. That's why you have to build a good culture just to keep guys like him.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that's why it was smart of Rand to sign most of these guys to a 3-year deal.
Exactly.
Because at the end of that 3-year deal, on the last year of that 3-year deal, we should idealistically be a turned around team. If we go on the model that I was basing it on earlier of the Zach Taylor, Dan Campbell, the 3-year plan or whatever you want to call it, you should be a competitor by that point. So I feel like all those contracts are smartly played out. But that's the big point of it. I mean, it's just like you can't have another Derrick Henry. You can't let DeAndre Hopkins go for nothing. And I understand that he, like you just said, man, he deserves to at least go to a contender to try to get that championship. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be that, at least for another year or two. 25 is at least 24 and 25. Suck it up, breathe in, breathe out, whatever you need to do. Woosah. I hate to say it, Titans fans, but buckle up. We are in for a rebuild.
Yeah, I think 25-26 is generous. I mean, I really hate to say that. I think they'll be more competitive, but gosh, man, looking at this young talent, I think it's going to come up good. But you've got to keep hitting on these draft picks to even have a chance. I think by 27, 28, and that's the tough part is you want to have a extremely competitive team by the time you move into that new stadium, because they want to sell tickets. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day. So I think that's kind of your window for ownership. By 27, 28, we need to have this thing together with a solid head coach, with a solid quarterback. I think that's kind of the window that I'm looking at right there. So, and on that point, so we talked about, possible players we might want to move. Is there anybody you're looking at, Justin Fields, that maybe you go out and make an offer on?
Okay, there's no trade offers that I like.
Okay.
But I have been outspoken on social media and a couple times on the show. I've said, I do not like this draft class for quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Plain do not, man. I don't think Ward is it. I don't think Sanders is it. I don't like them. So my proposal to that would be a patch quarterback, because Levis ain't it either. I don't think we've got the future quarterback on the team right now.
Absolutely
so
not.
We need a patch quarterback. So we need somebody who's able to be a starter and hold us over for one season or maybe two until we find that guy to come in and ready to start. Now, who in your mind is a competitive quarterback that's playing well right now that's going to be available in 2025? You know he's going to be available.
I'll
give you a hint. Yeah, I'll give you a hint. He was a backup until this week.
Not Russell Wilson.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
God, no.
Backup until this week. Not Mariota, right? Please don't say Marcus Mariota.
Yes.
Are you serious? Oh
I am
gosh.
dead
Oh god.
ass serious.
I no. No. Absolutely not.
No,
Absolutely. No.
I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just
and
kidding.
here's no, but hey, that's a real conversation because he comes in, he throws what 18 to 23, two touchdowns, no interceptions. Okay, cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
Here's my only from the play perspective, sure. My issue is again, we're looking at an offense with no leadership on it. I think whatever quarterback you bring in has to be a vocal leader, and that is the exact opposite of what you would get in Marcus Mariota. And that's not a shot at Marcus
Absolutely.
Mariota. He's just not that vocal person.
He's not the leader.
Um,
Yeah.
I am looking. I don't think Sam Darnold becomes. God, I hate doing this in what week 8
No.
where we're talking
Yeah.
about
No.
what
I
quarterback
would.
we want for next
By
year.
the way, before I get too much backlight, that was a joke.
Yeah.
It was just to get a rise out of people. It was a funny joke. I thought it was funny. Anyway, continue, brother.
But no, I think there are guys. No, I don't think Sam Darnold becomes available. God, I mean Trey Lance, I don't feel great about him as backup on the Cowboys. Throws 5 interceptions in a preseason. I am looking at guys. Justin Fields just got benched for Russell Wilson. Looks like that's going to be a thing. I do feel like he's shown some flashes. Um, I mean, dare I say Bryce Young, who he was benched early by the Panthers. Maybe you give him more weapons. I mean, there are definitely names out there, but I don't think even in a patch quarterback situation, I don't think you're gonna find very many good quarterbacks who are gonna come in and win a lot of games. Um,
No.
and that's why it's just tough for me because I don't know what you do. Because when you look at the draft class, you've got Shadur Sanders, which let's be honest, even if they drafted Shadur, you really think Dion lets him play in Tennessee?
I was gonna say I
Absolutely
don't
not.
want that. I don't want that prima donna.
Right.
No,
And then
thank
you
you.
look at Cam Ward, who he's a great college player, absolutely incredible college player, but does his game translate well to the NFL?
He's a more
That's a
athletic
question I
Will
still
Levis.
have. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, and I mean, and yes, I've been proven wrong before because I was on the train of Lamar Jackson's not going to be great. So I've been wrong before. Some people's game
Right.
translates well.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, perfect example. Perfect
Caleb
example.
Williams,
Nope.
but
Nobody
he's still like
thought that Caleb Williams had a little more hype. Jaden Daniels, who is probably
dude, he's
rookie of the
on
year,
fire.
if I know he's got a rib injury. I mean, if he comes back even within the next 2 weeks, he's already locked down rookie of the year in my opinion. So I've been wrong before, but Cam Ward, I don't know that you want to take a risk on him. I mean, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon probably looks like the most complete NFL ready quarterback. But I mean that's what they say. If you're good in college, you might be good in the NFL. If you're bad in college, you probably won't be good in the NFL. There's no surefire way to know that your quarterback's going to work out. But whoever it is, whoever you feel like the guy might be, if there is a draft pick, you can't throw them into the situation that we've seen Will Levis thrown into.
Mm.
You're going to be in the same position in that 27-28 window that you are right now, looking back saying, is he the guy or do we draft again? So whoever that patch quarterback is, if they go that route, which I think they should, it has to be somebody who can at least keep you competitive for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, Geno Smith.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody like that, not
somebody
Geno.
like that, yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's why I think, look, if I'm looking at the trade deadline and I call up Pittsburgh and I'm like, what do you want for Justin Fields? I don't know that you don't go ahead and lock him down now instead of waiting until someone else becomes available, if that makes sense. I mean, because we all know Russell Wilson. He played a pretty good game. He might be trash in 2 weeks, and they're trying to put Fields back in. So if you've got a guy out there that you like, whether if it is somebody Rain Carthon likes, I think you go get him now, while you still have some pieces you can shop for him.
Yeah. All right, I can go with that. I will say this though, real quick, and then I'll move on from it. But the Washington Redskins, I made the joke about Mariota, but the Washington Redskins, Jalen Daniels is playing on a good level, but they have an amazing core of young players.
Absolutely.
Because they have been terrible for the last couple years, and they've built on an amazing draft class that they've had 2 or 3 years in a row now. Same thing with, I hate to admit it, but God, The Houston Texans have done the exact same thing. They have an amazing core of young players. They've brought a few older free agents in to plug holes, and they're all of a sudden Super Bowl contenders.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's completely out of the realm for the Titans in 25, 26, really, to be contenders again. We just have to be patient, and it's going to be painful. I'll be honest with you. It's going to be hard for me this season because I hate losing. So this whole season's going to just suck. Plus, everybody gets to rub crow in my face because I like to talk a lot of crap in the off season, and I've already had to eat a lot of crow at work. And now my friends are getting into it. My father-in-law has been into it for years now. He almost feels sorry for me. I think he's actually quit giving me crap because he just like, oh man, what? Shoo, man, I'm sorry. It's like a guy that gets divorced from his wife, then loses his kids too, and you're just like, man,
Yeah.
Jesus, you got fired too? Damn, God bless, all in a week. Holy crap. Man, I'm sorry, dude. It's exactly what it feels like to be a Titans fan and other people looking at you. It's a sad time to be a Titans fan, but it's okay. Because again, I'll say I'm the optimist. So I feel like, is it time to pull that fire alarm bell? No. Even at the end of this season, if we've only won 1 or 2 more games, am I going to say it's time to pull that fire alarm bell? No. Now, I will agree if we're making dumb, boneheaded ass decisions in the off season and we make really stupid choices all next season, then yeah, absolutely. Then Callahan's job's at stake. Then we need to, but then we got a lot bigger problem, and we're talking about a lot longer of a rebuild. So let's be the positive people and think, you know what? Maybe it's just because of his youth. Maybe if he lets go of the play calling, all this will get better. Because otherwise, like I said, we got a big damn problem, a lot bigger than we got right now. So let's hope for that. Link, what do you want to say, man? What do you want to wrap up?
I'm not going to tear down the positivity. I love the positivity. I absolutely love it, and I do hope Callahan's the guy. I will say I don't think anybody was surprised at the loss they took to Buffalo. I mean, my prediction was 31-10. So I was
You
pretty
were close. Yeah.
I was close. So I don't think it's a surprise that they lost to Buffalo. I think the surprising part is how they lost. To be up 10-0, to have the offense moving, to have the defense doing what we expected them to do, and then just kind of fall apart at the seams. But I'm with you on the positivity. Like we talked about before the show, I've kind of reached the point of acceptance. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with supporting a bad football team right now because I do have hope for the future. So more positive vibes. And hey, you still got the Vols and Vanderbilt if you live in Tennessee. So there are things to still be excited about when it comes to football. I've refused to let this team ruin my weekends any longer. So I'm on board. I'm not checked out. I just refuse to let them ruin my weekend.
Have you seen the meme with the 3-headed dragon?
Yes.
And
yeah.
It's kind of like UT and Vanderbilt, and they're all bad looking, and then there's the derby.
Yeah. Go Vols. Go Vols.
I mean, what can you say? What can you say? But it's all good. Just a smidge real quick. No SEC teams are undefeated anymore because my Bulldogs won this weekend, and UT beat Alabama. So now Alabama has 2 losses.
0-2 against the state of Tennessee for Alabama. So
man, yeah, dude, God bless. I feel sorry for Alabama fans. Sorry, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't. I'm really happy to see that dynasty that Saban built turn into a complete dumpster fire. So more power to
I will say it's a little ridiculous that we stormed the field again and ripped down the goalpost and all that crap. But we'll pay for it. So what does it matter?
It's here's my thing. You lost for so long. It felt so bad. I storm the field every year. Storm the field every single year they cut. You don't have to tear down the goalpost. You can leave the goalpost. But if you just want to make cigars and storm in the field, your
Hell yeah.
full on tradition, just add storming the field to the cigars. I'm completely fine with it.
We will pay the
that
fines.
that environment is absolutely incredible. And fake news about piping and crowd noise, believe me, there you. So
You
I
don't need to
love.
type in any crowd noise.
I love the spooky Rocky Top. I love the spooky Rocky Top. If y'all know what I'm talking about, after going to the game Saturday, I rewatched it on television Sunday morning before the Titans games, and I was a little disappointed when I left because I'm like, man, they didn't play spooky Rocky Top. Nope. Turns out they played that about 3 or 4 times, and you just couldn't hear it being in the
because
crowd.
people were screaming.
It is that insane. So go Vols, had to get one in, but yeah, I hope the Titans can figure it out. If Vols could just sprinkle a little bit of that magic on the Titans, that would be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, man. We need some of that damn magic.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we'll be back Thursday to break down all the joyous fun we have to watch for in the Lions game.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we're gonna get pretty hammered in that one.
It ain't gonna get no easier. I'll put it that way. You're not gonna win this game with 10 points either. I hate to break it to you.
Oh man, it's gonna be a fun week, guys.
Yep.
So yeah, if you like, come check us out Thursday. We do it again, like we always do. But yeah, check us out anywhere you get your social media: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. We do exclusives on YouTube. I'm gonna actually put out a little series of comical videos and see how that goes. I don't know if some of you guys will get my humor, but maybe I hope. We'll see how that goes. Until next time, until Thursday, guys.
Tighten up.
Tighten up. Peace out.